So, I found out that I'm an INFP. If you've seen any of my other videos or you know me, you know that I've been saying for a long time that I was an INTP. Um, it's interesting because they do have quite a bit in common. Um, the second and third function, specifically, they have in common, which I've been finding out the second and third function for all the types is a big defining struggle for them. So in that way, it's not surprising that I related to that type and that I felt like I was similar. Now, obviously, anyone who doesn't know what type they are or doesn't relate to their first function seems like they must be having some problems. And I think I have been really, I definitely had some problems in my life. I have gone through a lot. I've had some really traumatic experiences, and I grew up in a really controlling, oppressive sort of environment as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So there's a lot I could say about that, and there's lots of videos about Jehovah's Witnesses online, so if you want to know how shitty that is, check out John Cedars, check out, I don't know, a million things. I'm sure it's not hard to find, so go for it if that's what you want to find out. Anyway, this video is about me being an INTP, or me being an INFP, not an INTP. Oh my god. Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of stuff with Personality Hacker. I kind of have in a sort of unofficial job with them now that hopefully will become an official job. I wrote one article, one blog post that got posted recently. Um, and I'm working on some other stuff. Yeah, so we had talked because they asked me to do if I wanted to help do some writing and do some stuff with them since I'm obviously completely obsessed with personality type like they are, I guess. Maybe more. No, yeah, so that's how we met because obviously they're a big personality type place now. They're kind of catching on with people, and there's not honestly a lot out there that makes personality type easy to use or easy to understand for people who aren't willing to spend the kind of obsessive time that I have learning it. There are a lot of people who do know things if they, it's not like it's not out there to find, but they've just made it so much more accessible, and I'm really excited for, I think I made a video about this already, but I'm really excited for what kind of effect they're gonna have and making this kind of stuff easier for people to use. So I think that's gonna be really good. But yeah, we talked, and Antonia, she's a co-owner, and she writes a lot of the blog posts. She has a lot of experience with personality type and all kinds of growth systems, and she's done coaching with people, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, we talked, and I was trying to describe to her this confusion I was having because one of Personality Hacker's main things that they push is that the second function, which they call the co-pilot process, is a really big deal for people to grow that part, to balance their personality out, and people tend to want to use the first and third function together because they're the same direction, like either both introverted or both extroverted. So I learned what they had to say about that, and I was trying to apply that, and it had helped. just knowing that idea. But I also felt like there was more to it, or there was kind of like an issue that I was having, um, because I get really afraid of risks, which I know is an introverted sensing, like almost kind of grip situation, which comes from it being in the lower part of your stack. So, but also, like, I have real reason to be stressed and concerned sometimes because I get stuck inside my head and I don't always know if I can be present at the moments that I need to, like, say, driving. This is a big deal because driving is really dangerous. It's really, there's a lot of risk involved, and not being able to pay attention to what you're doing when you're driving is a big problem. So it's something that I've thought about a lot. I, it would be a big issue in my life if I just couldn't drive. So I don't feel like that's an option, even though that's the kind of stuff that people will say, like, oh, get off the road, or like, if you can't handle it, then don't drive. Like, that's nice, but that's not realistic. And that's, like, that's gonna have a serious impact on my life. Obviously, dying will have a serious impact on my life too. So, and it's not like like, I'm not a bad driver, with motor skills. Like, I'm not the best with motor skills, but I'm not the worst with motor skills. And when I do pay attention and when I am really focused, I drive really well and I don't have issues. It's just sometimes I have a problem with it and I didn't know where that was coming from or why that was happening. I had made a suggestion to Antonia that I had something to do with extroverted sensing in the shadow functions, and like, maybe I have to grow that to be able to grow my extroverted intuition, because you need to go out and do things. Extroverted intuition is the second function for INTPs and INFPs, so at least I was right on that part. Yeah. Losing my train of thought there. Yeah, so that was my like way of trying to figure it out, and I was talking about that, talking about being afraid of not being able to pay attention in the moment, and because I thought it had something to do with that. And she was like, I think you might be an INFJ if that's the problem that you're having. Um, then we didn't get to talk for a long time, so I was like, oh my god, maybe I'm an INFJ because like I'm having this problem, and that does make sense, like, oh, it must be introverted intuition that I'm like inside my head. Even though obviously, like, from what I've learned and thinking back on it now, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, because INFJs and INTJs, excuse me, both the types with introverted intuition as their first function, um, they they're not like just locked inside their head. They're actually like really aware of what's around them in such a way that they can't shut it off a lot of times. Like, they can be oblivious, but in my experience, it's more like they can't shut it off and they don't have control over whether they're taking things in. They notice everything. Like, they, it's almost it's almost like having your subconscious conscious in some ways, even though obviously there's problems with that analogy. But um, anyway, so clearly that was not correct, even though I understand why she wondered that. And I think one of the big things that she was picking up on with me was that I'm a feeling type, not a thinking type, which did turn out to be true. And it's like, once she had suggested that, it's like, like, my knee-jerk reaction is like, you don't understand me, and I, I knew that this was gonna happen, and stuff like that. But I tried to make myself really consider it and really try to see if it was true, and it did really surprise me how, like, I don't know, like forced me to realize like I am a feeler, even though I spent a lot of time analyzing things, and I it's important to me to be objective. It's important to me to be logical, and um, I don't know, that kind of stuff matters to me a lot. And so I didn't see myself as a feeler, but it's like the more I really let myself think about it and let myself try to consider applying it to myself, the possibility of being a feeler, it's like I realized, duh. um, and it's kind of a relief in some ways because I always have had a lot of emotion. And I mean, as a kid, I was really embarrassed because I would cry a lot, like, especially as I started to get to more teenage years, I was really embarrassed about how emotional I was. Um, I don't know, I always tried to understand it in analytical terms, I guess, instead of just realizing like the obvious conclusion. Um, and I always just felt like there's kind of something wrong with me, like that was like an anomaly in me instead of it being like the real part of me. So that was just like a weird, I don't know, a weird way that I had like interpreted it. Um, yeah, so I could go into that a lot, maybe another time. All the reasons to repress my feelings, all the reasons to not want to deal with them or not want to view them as my real self. But anyway, so we got around to doing a type verification a little while after that first conversation, and Antonia's so good. Anyway, but they're really busy. Um, yeah, so it took a while between her wondering if I was a different type and then being able to do the type verification, like a few weeks. Maybe it was a few weeks. It seemed like years to me, but I know that I think it was just like a week or two. So, yeah, we did that, and she was like, all the things that you're saying are like an INFP. Um, which is crazy because I have a friend that's an INFP, and we do relate a lot, but it's hard because there are a lot of differences between people that um, are more than just personality type. And sometimes I don't know, I haven't had a personal experience with meeting or recognizing a lot of people of the same type that are different to, it's some, but not as much as Antonia, obviously. Um, so there's still gaps, there's still a lot of gaps in my experience. Um, so that there are a lot of questions and guesses going on with me. So, yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we talked. Um, it turns out the thing of me being stuck in my head is just me having feelings because an INFP uses introverted feeling first, and that's just me like being really introverted and being really into my feelings and analyzing my feelings or the past or stuff like that. Like that's me using FI and SI at the same time instead of using NE to be like out, looking out into the world. And it just, a lot of things fit together with this type for me because um, it's like I have a lot of anxiety a lot of times, and I will worry that I won't be prepared or that I won't be able to deal with things as they come up, or I'll be ignoring something and something bad will happen because I wasn't aware, and just making mistakes and stuff like that. So, um, but that really fits actually with having extroverted thinking as an inferior function, or personality hacker calls it the 3-year-old. that really fits because I basically I've been trying to use extroverted thinking to plan and to compensate for the fact that I'm staying too introverted, using both introverted functions instead of using my top introverted and my top extroverted function to balance each other. And that's something that personality hacker and Antonia explained, that if you use your second function, it compensates for the fact that you're not good at your last function. You don't need to put so much weight on your last function to try to grow it directly, which seems like what a lot of people do. People are aware of their failure in that area and they don't want it to be there, and they try to just focus on it and work on it all the time, but that just makes you depressed. And I have been really depressed for a lot of my life, and no wonder, like, if I've been trying so hard to ignore my main function and not use it, and I just felt like cutting out that part of me that needs things to matter and needs things to mean something and to feel things, and just cutting it out made me feel like things are empty and nothing matters, and what's the point? Like, it just doesn't feel worth it without that. So all of that makes so much sense now. Um, it's really helpful to be able to figure that out. And I've noticed on the personality hacker comment section, and especially surrounding things that are about INTJs, a lot of INFPs seem to think they're INTJs because they identify so strongly with their last function, with extroverted thinking. Although that's not actually an INTJ's first function, it's just what they seem like on the outside. And there are a lot of other ways to recognize a difference. And I never thought that I was an INTJ because I know an INTJ, and the difference between us was obvious, even though we do relate a lot. But there's some very particular differences between us that I can't even begin to compete with that. Yeah, so I think that has helped me, maybe. Being able to compare the difference helps narrow things down and makes it more clear. So I think, but that's another reason why INFPs need to get outside their heads and use extroverted intuition, because they really need to observe things instead of just trying to rely on what they already know. Need to get out and have more experiences and take in new information to work with, instead of just trying to recycle what you already have inside there. Will lead you to a lot of erroneous conclusions, and you'll feel really stupid when it was obvious and right in front of your face the whole time, but you just weren't looking. So that's the big thing. Open your eyes and look. That's the piece of advice that I'm taking with me. Go forward. Try to push through difficult things instead of hiding and holding back, even though it's difficult. Not that you don't need downtime or personal time, because you do need to take care of yourself and listen to yourself. But also, sometimes you have to push through, and sometimes you have to take a leap. It's like, the phrase, like a leap of faith. It's like that, but it's not like blind faith. It's just you haven't experienced it yet. You can take a leap based on your knowledge and trust in yourself. Like, trust yourself that you can do it. Like, take the leap and take the chance and let yourself make mistakes so that you can learn from them, so that you can trust yourself. You have to have experiences and learn from them to be able to learn and to be able to grow, or you can't respect yourself. And that's a big problem, I think, because of being so in touch with our feelings. INFPs can feel really bad about themselves. They're really aware of their negative feelings toward themselves, and they don't take it lightly at all. I think everyone has good and bad feelings toward themselves, but it's a big deal. So that's why growth is really important, though, because you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy with yourself if you let your fears stop you from trying or growing. So sometimes you have to realize, like, you have to accept the discomfort to be happier on the other side, because that's what's really important to you. You're not going to be satisfied without growing. So yeah. Wow, that's a long video, but I had a lot to say. And happy INFP revelation, everybody. So I guess I'll stop now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.